Welcome back to another Sci-Friday. This is The World from a Chef's Perspective, the podcast. And this week we are talking all about dreams. Last week we watched, or you put on the movie Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid, the sci-fi one about where he's a psychic and he's essentially recruited by some organization to get inside people's heads, right?
Yeah, the government. I mean, inevitably, it turns out the government is wanting to use it as or weaponize it. But yeah, it's a really good movie.
It all goes back to the government.
It
They
always
always anything like that they would want to weaponize. Anything psychic, anything dream. They want to invade your dreams, I think.
well, yeah, and it was all about um the I forget the what was the actor's name that was the older dude that actually ended up being like a villain. What was that?
Not sure. Not sure.
You
There was
should.
I know Max von Sydow. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Christopher Plummer was in it.
It was Christopher Plummer.
Was it? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was Christopher Plummer. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
The guy where he seemed all legit and then he was just completely part of the, I guess you would call it, the military industrial complex,
right, and it
you know.
was it was his idea all along to try and I think probably overtake the president excuse me weaponize people as to utilize in war.
Now, we also watched the other one too with Christopher Walken, Brainstorm, and I believe I've written about both of these before on previous Sci-Fridays. But Christopher Walken, that was the one where he they're recording a computer brain computer interface enabling sensations to be recorded from one person's brain converted to tape so they can view it. That just shows how old that is. They're being
Yeah,
converted to tape.
but that was ended up being so bizarre and odd, and I think there was definitely some gaps in that movie, and I don't know if it had to do with the main actress was
Natalie Wood.
Natalie Wood was killed or died. I think almost toward, or was it in the middle of it or towards the end of
I
it?
think they said it was in the middle of production she died, and coincidentally, Christopher Walken was on that boat that
And
her and her husband were on,
James
and
Wagner.
and so, but of what I read, they already shot most of her shots, and they just kind of pieced all that together. But that's another one too, where again the, let's say, military industrial complex takes over some great scientific technology to use it against us. You know,
Yeah, and I wish that it was a little bit better storyline because I would have liked them to delve deeper into that because it was all kind of random. Everything just happened really random. One minute they were exploring, like one doctor was eating something, and Christopher Walken was wearing that funky Back to the Future head machine that Doc
yeah,
wears, and he could, and the other, or Christopher Walken could taste what the other doctor was eating,
yeah.
and then the next minute the government's coming in, and then
Yeah, it does seem like they kind of pieced it together because at the beginning, what you're talking about is that he's wearing that headset that you put on the headset, and I guess somebody else does too, and they eat a sandwich. That's what they were doing. The one guy was eating a sandwich, and he could taste it, and then they ate all this weird stuff together, and he picked apart basically every flavor. But it's a link between a brain computer interface. So
yep,
they were also linking together people's brains, something we talked about last time with AI and the chip, I guess you want to call it. I guess this movie took place before they thought about brain implants. It was all external, like helmet style,
yeah.
which is bulky and unrealistic. No, not everybody's going to be wearing a helmet around.
But it was, I mean, it certainly made it fun. It was it made it made it more enjoyable to watch.
And I guess only one of these movies takes place in Dream World, Dreamscape. The other one takes place in your mind, Brainstorm. But a lot of great sci-fi occurs either in dreams or your mind. There's a lot of sci-fi where someone's getting into your head, or let's say Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, I mean, but dreams are in the mind. Um
We think they are.
we think they are. um And what were we listening to yesterday? Where they're doing, they had a article where Japanese researchers are looking into reading or making images from your dreams.
Yeah, Japan is working on dream recorder technology apparently. Yeah, it seems like they're using MRI to map out our dreams and maybe get some sort of imagery from it. But the thing is, too, and another thing I was reading about is that if they can get images from our mind, could they put dreams in our head?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, they already do from marketing. I mean, things that we see in our daily lives that we don't even recognize, and then they pop up in our dreams, and suddenly we want to go and we're thinking about buying something or.
Now, I think that's more subliminal messaging too. But this dream technology is similar to the brainstorm technology where it's an interface directly to the human brain with an EEG sensor that's placed on the head. The device can read and map the brain's activity during REM sleep through MRI. But they've been able to print out 3D visualizations using AI elements to kind of map. I don't know if it's mapping the dream world. That's kind of odd because how do you do that? How do you map the dream world? Something that we all do, but we have no idea really what that is, you know?
Yeah, it is interesting.
I think I want somebody mapping my dreams, though. My dreams are weird enough. But one thing that you have had in the past that I haven't had is night terrors. Night terrors can be frightening, and I remember the first time I saw you in a night terror. It wasn't even nighttime, it was daytime. You were taking a nap, and I walked up to our bedroom, walked in, and I was gonna wake you up and surprise you by like slamming the door. Ha ha, not so funny, I found out. Because I walked in, I opened the door, and I slammed it shut, and she sat up exorcist style. Like, and was looking at me, but I looked in her eyes and there was nothing there. It was like there's nobody there. And so I didn't know what was going on. I had never seen that before. And then she started screaming. And so eventually she woke up a couple seconds later and explained all that night terrors to me. But when did that all first start for you? Those crazy dreams like that?
That sounds absolutely terrifying, by the way.
It was.
And I started having, I mean, I had weird dreams or night terrors. I can remember 9 or 10. I remember we were living with my mom's boyfriend, and I would sleep with the light on. I loved horror movies, right? But I had horrible nightmares, and my mom would let me watch them. Every once in a while, she'd point out, you probably shouldn't be watching scary movies when you have horrible nightmares, but then I would just do what I wanted. So I went to bed. I slept on the couch in the living room, and the lights were on. And I remember, I don't even remember waking up. I just, all of a sudden my eyes were open, and right next to me, we were in California, and we lived, just sidetrack here, up in these hills where there was just us in this shack, or basically like a, not a shack, but a very old cabin.
Rural.
um and it was an adventure, but anyways, there was rattlesnakes, and sometimes my mom's boyfriend would catch them and put them in the aquarium. This sounds like a horror story, but
It is.
it was interesting. Anyways, so in the middle of the night with the lights on, I see this rattlesnake. I mean, I could see its skin. I could see it, like I could hear its rattle. It was so real and terrifying. And I remember getting the courage up to call my mom out and to come get this rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing there. She came and comforted me, and once she touched me, I saw that there was nothing there. And that has those type of nightmares have followed me off and on all through my life. And there's been, I've had to warn those that have chosen to sleep in the same bed with me, to not touch me if I have a night terror, because they are quickly, meshed into that dream, and it can get scary. And I've had to, yeah, just watch my stress level and different things.
And keep what you watch. What you watch. Watch your stress level. Sometimes keep the light on. Keep all weapons away from the bed. And weapons, I mean anything: pencils, scissors, a hammer,
Oh
a
God.
screwdriver. Not like she's gone crazy and used that before, but that's got to be scary. So like when you wake up and or you think you wake up, at least maybe you were awake. Maybe you're in that like point between wakefulness and sleep where some people experience what they call sleep paralysis.
Hmm.
You know, so was the snake like, was it normal size? Did it have scales still? Was it huge?
It was big, and yeah, it had scales, and
Did you touch it?
no, I was too I did feel paralyzed. I couldn't move. Yeah, I
Was it right in your face?
it was right next to me. I like to sleep on my side, and it
Okay.
was like right next to my face. And the thing is that there, I mean, it probably, we never actually did have snakes in our house, but I'm surprised we didn't. I mean, they were all over, and we just ignored, you don't bother, if you don't bother them, they won't bother you, type thing.
Until they wake you up at night. Terrors are definitely scary. The first time, like I said, I experienced it, I had no clue what it was. I've never had night terrors to my knowledge. I've had nightmares, plenty of them. Um, when I was a kid, the X Files came out about the time I was 10 years old, you know, and so of course I loved it. I was into it, and I loved aliens, the alien stories in X Files. You know, the little gray aliens with the big eyes that abducted Mulder's sister or whatever, whoever took her. But that face, the alien face, scared me so bad, scared the shit out of me. When I first saw it, I was paralyzed with fear. You know, I was probably when I first saw it, it was probably 8 or 9, because of that movie Communion. You know, another Christopher Walken classic that I think I've put in Sci-Friday before. It is a very good movie. It's fun. I think that's funny now. When I was a kid, that was so scary. That alien face coming around the corner. So when I was a kid, I would be asleep for possibly an hour or two, and I'd wake up and I'd see that alien face. And I would cover my head with the blankets, you know, and eventually go back to sleep. But I swear I could feel something standing there, you know. It was so creepy, and I would be fully awake, you know, and sometimes it wouldn't be so clear. I'd wake up, and you know how your brain likes to make shapes and faces and everything. I forget what that's called, but you wake up and you like, I'd look in my closet and I would see something like that. You know, my brain would make that image because I was scared of it. And of course, X Files had an episode like the next week where they said, if you're dreaming and you wake up and are you seeing things that might look like an alien face, it might mean you're abducted. So I thought, I never thought I was abducted, but I just thought I was so afraid of getting abducted, but I couldn't stop watching it, you know,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. And nowadays, I mean, to be honest, I'm still scared of that face. But I know now that it's pretty much a construct of media and everything else, and nothing that looks like that's probably going to show up in my room at night. And if it did, oh well, what's the worst that could happen? You know,
Well, a
I,
lot, but
what do you mean? What do you think could happen if it showed up?
I mean,
Takes me.
it takes you and
Oh
does
well.
experiments on you.
What kind of experiments?
The bad kind.
The bad kind. Not the fun kind. All you do hear about the fun abductions sometimes. We went to this magical land and blah 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 and all that sort of thing.
That would be the best scenario.
That would be the best scenario right there. Like you said, you had to warn people that slept next to you or around you. And you did warn me, and like I said, everything around you that could be construed as a weapon or something needs to be put away at night. But I mean, I've slept in the same bed with you for about 15 years now. And there's been on occasion where I've woken up and you're ready to go. You're like ready to assault somebody, you know. Whatever's in your dream is what you're after, but I'm the only one there, so
Right.
yeah, you can put two and two together and see how that goes sometimes.
Sometimes it doesn't go well.
For me.
But
But it's an adventure.
but I think, like we've talked about, not touching me and just, waking me up with your
Don't look at
voice.
her.
Um I never said don't look at me, but wake me up,
But
say
I don't.
something
If
to me.
I don't look at you because I just gotta like lay there and go, okay, it's gonna happen. I don't need to get hit tonight.
Right. Yeah.
That is rare though that those night terrors take over,
Yeah,
and
thankfully they're rare now.
they're few and far between now. But yeah, dreams are insane anyway. And I've had dreams. I wrote about where I was a frittata
Yeah,
that time. I had to stretch
that was a
out.
cool one.
That was fun. That was a fun dream because I remember I got, I was in the eggs or I was the eggs or something like that. I guess I was the whole thing. And I got poured into the pan and I was like, I'm going to stretch out and become the best frittata I can possibly be.
It was like a stoner dream.
I don't know if it was that or not. I think it was more of a cooking dream because we just started making at work. We started doing brunch and we started doing these
Oh
scrambles
yeah,
that
yeah.
were kind of like frittatas, but they weren't. They were like farmer style omelets, where everything's scrambled together and then baked. And but in my dream, I get poured into the pan. I'm spreading out and being the best frittata I can be. I try to touch the edges, and still be thin because the frittata is thin. It's not super thick like the Spanish tortilla, the potato tortilla, the egg dish.
Yeah.
Not Mexican tortillas that you eat tacos with, but But this frittata dream was crazy. But I have very vivid dreams. Some of my dreams could be considered. I guess you could put them into some sci-fi, and they could be considered that. My favorite ones though are where I'm flying. The flying dreams are awesome. It's where you can become. You're a bird, let's say. In one of them, I'm a bird. I'm on the edge of a cliff by an ocean. I fly as high as I can, and then I drop straight down into the ocean and go as low as I can. And as soon as I hit that water, I become a fish. You know, this is kind of weird to talk about because I never really share my dreams with the public, only with some people I know. I had one dream that was just completely nuts, and I've told you about it, and I've told a couple other people, but it was so crazy because, well, I'll just I'll just tell you the dream. It was what, February 17th, 2021. And I remember that date because Rush Limbaugh died. Now, I was not a Rush Limbaugh fan, but of course I was conscious of him. And, you scrolling through your Facebook or whatever, and you notice that he died. Okay. I was not too big of a fan of his, but that's how I am remembering the date because it was a significant media event, I guess. But I remember it was afternoon. We had gone somewhere, taken our son somewhere, brought him back. Maybe it was something he was doing during COVID. And I took a nap, and I remember I set my phone next to me because, of course, that's your alarm clock nowadays. And I set it I had a 30-minute timer going on there. And in the dream, um, a name kept getting repeated by a female, and I'm not going to mention this person's name because when I woke up and Googled the name, they're a real person who died 10 years prior to the date that I was dreaming about them. So they died February 17th, 2011. Um, the person in my dream was saying that person's name over and over, and the person in my dream was the individual who died. When I got up, like I said, I Googled the name just at it because I heard it so many times in the dream. It was like said over and over and over. And I thought in the dream, okay, I'm going to get up and Google it when I wake up. Woke up, Googled the name. What popped up was somebody, like I said, that had died February 17th, 2011. And I'm having the dream February 17th, 2021. It was very odd. And I remember when I woke up, I told you about it, and I've kind of been on a quest ever since then to find out if I know that person and how I would have known that person. I've lived my whole life in Washington State. They apparently lived their whole life in Wisconsin, but through research, and this sounds kind of creepy. I mean, it's kind of creepy that I had that dream in the first place. But I mean, they have family that's alive. That's the reason I'm not bringing their name up right now. And that might sound like a cop out, but I just don't want to. This is a weird situation, and I don't want to involve anybody in it that thinks I'm trying to get something from them. Or does that sound weird?
I think it's smart to do that, and I think I think that you are intuitive, and there's definitely been dreams that.
There's intuitive, but then there's that, and I don't know what that is. That's sci-fi.
Yeah, yeah, that is
That
sci-fi.
is a sci-fi dream right there. And I've thought about that a lot since it happened. And it's been over 3 years since it happened, but it hasn't left my mind, just because you got to go, what is that? You
Right.
know, what is that? And so that's what makes me question the dream world in general, as to what it really is. I mean, we can say we're processing our thoughts that are subconscious that we have throughout the day, or whatever. But when I think of that dream, I think of these either chips we're going to have in our head, or the brainstorm device, or something else like that, is to linking to somebody else's brain. That those are physical devices that could be used to do that. But does the dream world, is it capable of doing that already? And I understand that this is an odd topic, it's a fringe thing, and it's something that I really didn't consider up until that dream. Until that dream, I didn't even consider anything like that happening. I mean, I'm not. Yes, I'm into sci-fi. I'm into weird stuff like that, aliens, ETs. But I'm not a true believer of any of that. I come from a skeptical mindset, and I think science can go a long way. But I think there's a part of our existence that science can't really explain, and I think science fiction touches on that better than our actual science can sometimes.
Yeah, I do find that fascinating. Science fiction does have truth in it and depicts what's happening in our society and what we're feeling. I find that really fascinating.
And I think science fiction, like, let's go back to our favorite subject of AI, and maybe science fiction also doesn't necessarily predict the future, but prepare us for what's to come.
Right, it prepares us. I mean, and you could say that about a lot of things. I mean, film in general and literature. Um, there is an interesting thing that happens there where writers and artists seem like they're psychic a little bit and depicting what's coming or what's happening, the problems that are going on, the things we need to look at, and all of that.
Yeah, I think there's some intuitive stuff going on there too, but I mean, I think also writers can look at what has happened and kind of predict what's going to happen, and through creativity just take us there as well,
Right.
and not necessarily that they're always just like not channeling something, but getting some insight from elsewhere. But you're going to look at, okay, where's science now, where's science fiction now, let's push both of those to the possible future. But I think it goes back and forth too, with whatever science fiction is thrown out there. um, Real scientists could be inspired from, and take real science to a new level, bring science fiction into real science.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's happened quite a bit. I mean, we would go back to Star Trek and look at that. Everybody, they had a device in their hand, that communicated with people. We all have a device now. They're Well, the Apple Watch thing is very similar to their communicator type thing, and not like the one worn on their chest, but like the little watch thing.
Mhm.
Um, so that show really did predict the future in a way that I think we didn't even think of when it was going on. When they were on the holodeck or whatever, we had thought of VR then, but it was so far removed from what it is now. Now it's like you can go have a VR experience in your home. Back then, you probably had to be a scientist working on VR to have that. Or if you look at, when they say on that same show, Star Trek, The Next Generation, they'll call up, say, computer, and then they'll call up some information, or they'll call up, I mean, what is Alexa? What is
Right.
Google?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first realized I could talk to Google, I was like, it's Star Trek right here. And then I developed some kind of weird relationship with Google where she would talk to me and not talk to you, even though it was like your phone for a while.
Yeah, she seemed to have like a crush or something. It was funny.
But Alexa, on the other hand, we didn't have Alexa at home just because I'm paranoid, but we had it at work, and it seemed to have its preferred people it would talk to. I mean, it would engage in actual conversation with some of the guys there. And me, I voiced that I didn't like her. I said, Alexa, I don't like you because you're listening to me, even though, because they are, but who knows about that? But that's where science fiction has been brought into reality, science fiction to science fact, you know. And so I think the creative forces behind that can kind of bridge the gap between the two. Once again, thank you for listening. I know we kind of went down the rabbit hole on this one, but sometimes that happens with sci-fi. But this has been another edition of Sci-Friday, and this is the World from a Chef's Perspective, the podcast. Thank you.